with that being said, I'm gonna do the intro. We're gonna get right into it. So today's debate is gonna be Capp KG versus Scribble KG on the proposition God exists, where Scribble KG will be taking the affirmative view, and today's judge and moderator will be Vale. With that being said, your 30 minutes starts now.
Okay, let's get into it, man. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so should I just provide the arguments for God right now?
Oh, well, first of all, what's your theory of argumentation? Before
No,
we
I'm not
even,
gonna lie.
before we even
Cap.
get to you providing an argument, what's your theory of
No, Cap.
argumentation? Go ahead.
I'm gonna answer this question, but I want
Answer
you
the
to know this
question,
right now.
faggot.
I will, but hold on. I want you to know this right now, Cap. Do not do that.
Answer the
with me.
question,
I've been
faggot.
doing this before you.
Answer the question, faggot.
Aristotelian theory of argumentation. Don't do this. Don't do
the
this.
Aristotelian theory?
Yep. Don't do this. Don't do this.
Yeah, I
Please
just hold
don't
to
do this.
meta-aphoratic anti-positionality, also known as absolute rejectionism, right, which just rejects premises. So what's exactly is going to be the argument for why we should accept premises?
There's an issue with what you just said here. So you said that okay, so I held to your argumentation theory that just rejects premises, but what you said can be
not a theory of argumentation. That's a mistrack.
Yeah, you lost. You said that you reject
That's
premises.
a mistrack.
Wait. So is a mistrack to say you reject?
I didn't say in virtue of my theory of argumentation.
Okay, so we reject premises in virtue of then. Wait, so we reject premises in virtue of then.
Yeah, I just rejected in virtue of totalized meta-aphoratic anti-positionality, also known as absolute rejectionism within the literature.
Do you find when you say in virtue of, do you mean like, okay, so let's say that someone said that X in virtue of Y, is that like something that's going to be numerically identical with X because Y?
No, there's not going to be any numerical identity, right? Because, right, to say that you have grounding there or an assertion is actually going to be a transient perturbation within an indeterminate field, then neither supports nor denies propositional consent. Yeah.
Yeah, what's more motivation
so
for
it's
that?
actually not going to be what you just said, man. We're not talking about numerical identity. Actually, I would deny numerical identity.
Hold on. But I'm going to say why it doesn't actually matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because it is the case that what you're being said in your argumentation have to follow, and it can be implemented inside of Aristotelian format, given this. See, a premise is going to be some
under what modality?
Wait, under what modality?
Under what modality? Under what modality? What's the modal flavor of that? What's the modal flavor? Lothar, what's the modal flavor?
It doesn't have to be a modality. I'm gonna have to put it down mute though, because I can't
you don't think can is a modal notion? You don't think it's modally sensitive?
Any well-formed formula.
You don't think can is modally sensitive?
Some string systems are syntactically structured and
grammatically correct given some formal
language.
Is the term
is the case that what you said, even should to explicate your entire argumentation framework, argumentation theory, that could be inside of a well-formed formula. If a well-formed formula is a premise, it is also the case that what you're saying here can also be well-formed formula, because what you're saying is well-formed formula, therefore what you're saying is a premise.
Well, actually, I reject well-formed formulas, right? Because that presupposes some type of syntactic legislability, and this symbolic concatenations can be normally adjudicated according to the criteria of formal admissibility. Right. So that's actually a blunder. Right? What's the argument for why we should accept well-formed formulas? Actually, instead of an argument, I just want you to justify, right, why we should adopt these type of concepts. Why is this type of concept going to be the kind of thing which is conceptually ethical? Right? Because conceptual ethics asks a lot of normative questions. So, are you going to justify?
This guy's lost. Okay, so this is what you said. You said,
are you going to justify that, Lothar?
Calm down. Like, just to be clear, by the way, Scribbled, I can't hear anything you're saying when you're getting over talk. So.
Oh shit! So okay,
y'all gotta stop trolling as well. Like, we don't.
You don't need to talk in sick.
We can do talking sick. I mean, it doesn't matter. But the thing, I would just say what I say because you're gonna talk me because you're on PC. I'm on phone. But how about this? I was gonna say
this. I'm not gonna overtalk you. I'll mute. Go ahead.
If you didn't hear what I said, I'm just repeating myself. What I said was this. So I said that to say that you differ from my argumentation theory, right, will also be saying you are devoid from well-formed formulas. But just even saying what you said can be constructed inside of a well-formed formula, given that you have to presuppose my own theory or argumentation system. Because a premise is just some well-formed formula. And what's meant by well-formed formula, it's just going to be a string of symbols that be syntactically structured and grammatically correct given some language, right? No, what you're saying is going to be structured and given correct within some given language. And you said
this is Scribbled mistrack number 3 of the night.
So we mistracking. This is my own argument. I didn't mistrack anything. Also,
this is Scribbled mistrack of the night.
So you said that it would be the case that you would be presupposing syntactic legibility. I asked you, what is meant by syntactic legibility? But all you do is continuing off the modification of the term, which actually is what syntactic legibility is. So how about this? You actually provide an understanding or some definition of what syntactic legibility is. How about you go to that?
Yeah, I reject definiendums. As well. Right? I'm just going to explain, right? The concept of a definiend presupposes the extractability of a self-identical structure independent of its enactment.
Why does it?
Clearly, that's a blunder. Right?
Why?
The reason why is because you have some extraction and it emphasizes the performative dimension, meaning it's not contained but eventuate.
What is an extraction?
Right, and the extraction is going to be the encoding of the differential actualization. Right.
That's just going to be wait. That's still contradictory.
So,
wait. That's
how is What's the P and not P? But also, I allow for
it could just be it can be a performative contradiction because I asked you this. You actually got in the chat.
What's the problem with performative contradictions? You think performative contradictions are bad?
Yeah, I do.
Do you think
contradiction under logical
what's the argument for that? Can you justify that
who accepts contradictions because you're going to be some kind of syntactic coherency or something is going to be.
You're kind of question bagging right now, and I can explain. I can explain why you're question bagging.
Classical logics are going to be upheld, right? Because classical logics are accepted and they're going to be necessary.
No way, you're just low tier Scribbled. I need you to lock in on what I'm saying. Okay, look,
listen, bro.
Look, your position has some presupposition at its level of its generative conditions.
But why are you doing
There's
that,
like presupposition there, right? The very distinction between well-formed and ill-formed relies upon the prior institution of discrete symbolic units, whose identity is assumed to persist across context. Right? We can just reject the contextualism there, and it doesn't end up a problem, right? You haven't actually justified any of your claims. I want to flag this for the judge. There has been no sufficient attack relations for anything that I'm saying. There's no sufficient attack relations.
Yeah, y'all want talking sticks?
Yes, I do.
We can do talking stick. That's fine. We can do talking stick.
You said this guy overtalks me. There's nothing I can do because I'm talking. There's no point in talking.
I'll let Scribbled respond now.
Yeah, so now before you overtalk me, I'm going to continue off what I said. He's talking about do I think there's an issue with proponent contradictions? I think there is, given two reasons. Well, one, under classical logics, which are going to be the most minimal structure of reality, right? Classical logics are going to be necessary, they're going to be needed, they're going to be grounded in this, right? That's one. And two, what's called from consciousness cannot exist, right, or function well within classical logics. One. And two is the case that the logical principle which says that no logically competent person believes in contradictions. So if you to accept the contradiction would be a sense of kind of syntactic incoherency, so you can be an irrational agent. Given the fact that you're an irrational agent, or like, I mean, if you accept this, you'd be an irrational agent. I don't know if you accept it or not, but even you question my view, honestly, in a way, could presuppose this. But I would get your answer on that. But anyways, the thing is that it has to fail unless you're an irrational agent, right? But now the response would just be this, okay? So now I didn't really hear a response to my argumentation theory, right? And also, you're talking about the defending ends. Now I'm responding to the defending ends part, right? So a defending ends just gives some understanding of what it means for like of a defendendum, right? It just defines a word, etc. Gives an account of an understanding. So I asked you, well, what is X? Cool. What is X? We're already presuppose defendendum. So I asked you, well, what is X? And you try to explain to me what X is. So an explanation would just be some defendendum. So it would be a contradiction for you to say that I deny defendendum for defending ends, and then give a defending ends of a defendendum, which that was in question here. So that's just lost there. Now he can respond now if you want.
Oh, I was server muted. Yeah. So there's a lot of blunders there, right? The invocation of classical logic already presupposes some type of bivalent decidability and inferential transmissibility in which we can just reject both of those, right? It doesn't seem like any minimal structure of reality can be posited insofar as structure entails relational fixity and reproducibility across ontological instances, right? So that's a blunder, right? But also the deployment of a definiens in relation to a definiendum presupposes the type of stable equivalence relation underwritten by semantic transparency, right? Also, you can have some identity relations that are not rejected in favor of their negation, but they're rendered non-operative, right? Any formal identity that would presuppose repeatable units of self-sameness, which would persist across instances, right? So actually, I can just reject performative contradictions as well, because to accuse a given statement of a performative contradiction is also going to be presupposing that the copula is what secured this relation, even though it itself is deprived of authority, right? There's no binding is, but you can give an account of identity without recourse to definiens, right? Because the demand for definitional grounding has been evacuated. So are you going to actually respond to what I'm saying? Bitch ass nigga?
Yeah, we're responding to what you're saying. So the first way said, well, we can reject this. Well, we is just going to be some term that's just be expressible and individuals as a whole, right? What is an individual? An individual is going to be some person or entity, which entity just can, honestly, in a sense, can just go into, in a sense, we'll call him the faculties, because you have an agent, right? We would just refer to an agent. An agent is an entity of volition. Entities of volition are ones who can make their own conscious thoughts and decisions. So they have some noma given by the gnosis, which the noma is going to be the object of thought. The gnosis is going to be the thinking process, right? But being able to do this would imply a mind. Well, what is a mind? Well, we have a mind, which is to be the motive extension for honestly, the mental properties and all these other things that give motive extension to the mind. But the thing is this, though, the mind can also express things that are going to be non-facted mental states. And given this fact, it is a case that, well, a fact would just be anything that's going to be a neurological constituent of the world. So you can have non-facted mental states. And given they're non-factive, you don't have to think there's going to be anything that's going to be, in a sense, going to be rational, it could be irrational. So you said that we would reject this, doesn't make sense, because one, I don't know what you mean by we, right? Because not me and you, clearly not me and you. Because I do, because one, you said we, you deny it, I don't. That's one. Two, even if just you saying we reject this doesn't actually entail that there's any issue with the view, because I can think that you're 1 foot tall, yet not be 1 foot tall. So it doesn't matter, right? Now the last part, I want you to provide motivated reasons for everything you said. right? So I want the higher justification in favor of every utterance, every parole stated within that sentence. Now, yeah.
Okay. Now, no way you're actually this Lotzer, right? Because you do realize that the invocation of individuation as a cognitive faculty or agent of volition already installs some type of proto-substantive scheme in which capacities are attributed to a unifying locus, right? The appeal to noumena and gnosis reintroduces this type of, you want to say, bifurcated epistemic topology, right? Appearance versus thing in itself alongside a privileged mode of access. But we can actually reject those and say that both are rendered inoperative, right? There's not going to be any numeral substrate, right? No givenness, no epistemic act that can mediate between the domains, right? So that's a blunder, right? But also to infer a mind from such operations presupposes that these operations are even attributable in any sense, right? That they're something that can be predicated upon, right? You're also presupposing that the attribution is coherent and that mind names a unifiable domain of such attributions, right? Clearly, those presuppositions there, I'm going to need you to justify those presuppositions. But also, I reject the motivating reasons, right? I reject the higher order justification because you're reinstating the very hierarchy of grounding that I'm refusing right now, right? That's going to be actually question begging, right? Because that's what's in question, right? So, yeah, but also the claim that rejection doesn't entail a problem for the view presupposes the intelligibility of the terms problem, entailment, and view. Right. I don't know why anyone would accept that those are even intelligible at all, right? It seems like I'm not negating them, right? I'm just saying that they're evacuated, right? And what that means is that the entailment presupposes inferential structure, the problems presuppose the norms, and the views presuppose coherence, and I'm not granting any of those. So are you actually gonna, justify any of your claims, sir?
Yeah, so when you say justify, I'm going to give some theory justification. I just hold a phenomenal conservatism just says that if you're seeing S at P, then the absence of the feeder's S justification believing that P. Which of the feeders be any true proposition incompatible and contrary to P, right? Yeah. So there isn't a feeders to the view, and that's one.
You understand that to get PC off the ground, you need to motivate that you can even have some type of mental states to begin with, right? Because seemings are understood as these type of mental states, and I reject that you even have mental states right now. I reject that. What's the argument that you're not just a robot or a ChatGPT that's talking to you right now? So can you justify that claim, please? Also, can we kick this bot? I'm unclear on why the bot is yapping. Yeah, can you justify that you even have mental states in order to be justified?
Jargon, it's not going to work. Can
you answer that?
Also, I just want to fight this. Okay, so
can you answer that? Why do you have mental states? Can you prove that you have mental states?
What I'm saying.
Wait, let him respond.
Can you prove that you have mental states right now?
Let Scribbled respond.
Yes, like I was saying.
That you have mental states, faggot.
Okay,
because you need those to be justified, given that you need seemings.
Disqualify this guy. Like I was saying. So the issue is also being said is here. So I want to have you on mute. So I don't know if you were saying before this, but also what's being said is that it's crazy. He still presupposed my strategy because he didn't even attack why is the case that these things can be constructed within a well-formed formula, right? He didn't even contest his reasoning. Okay, so and also given the pathology, partition suffix or commitments is the case that I'm going to have some degree of belief or some degree of motivation to believe in this thing, even some another motivating reasons in favor of this, right? That also can just we're probably going to attack that, but regardless here, what you're saying, I don't think you understand that. You even saying these statements, the paroles, which are these set of utterances themselves, can be constructed as well-formed formulas, right? And given this fact is a case of presupposing my structure. Now you responded with, okay, what presupposes the syntactic legibility, which I actually could explain. You never did. So everything that is an extension of that term also just collapses because that is a modification of what you need for your argument to prevail in the first. Not even argument, just the justification of motivated reasons that you need to prevail in the first place. But it can't because, in a sense, it's not explained. It's not motivated. There's nothing behind this term, right? But I don't really need to say too much else. You said something about PC. I already know what you said about PC. I had you on mute after this, but you can speak now.
I find it crazy how you just said that I didn't bring into contestation the well-formed formulas when I clearly contested that. That's a mistrack. I just want to flag that for the judge, and we can move on. Right now, you said that I presupposed your structure while failing to contest the well-formed formula, but that's already reinscribing the very arboreal architecture you're purporting to interrogate. Right? You can just take a Deleuze account where that's precisely the error of arboreal thought. Right? The privileging of root, ground, and formal lineage over rhizomatic proliferation. Right? The well-formed formula is not going to be some type of transcendent organizing principle. It can just be a root node that subordinates flows of expression to pre-coded regimes. Right? But also, you understand that when you read Jacques Derrida, right, he aligned dissemination displaces the very possibility of securing what's being said here. Mm-hmm. So that's a blunder. I just want to flag that you're not actually locking
motivate Jacques Derrida and motivate Deleuze.
I never made the claim that their views are the case. I said you can take their views.
Okay, so
that's a blunder. That's a mistrack within the dialectic. You're not actually locking in. I need you to lock in.
I want to flag this to the judges for everyone here. Okay, so now just for everyone here in the judge, this guy, he mentions these concepts. He mentions that, well, we can be a delusion and hold X, right? Or we can also hold the Jack Derrida. No, wait. Actually, let me ask you a question real quick. You don't have to say anymore. Are you saying that you could hold to Derrida or you could hold to Deleuze?
Am I saying that yep.
Oh, you are? Okay, yeah. So if you see, under the uniqueness thesis, we cannot have both these entities, right? There has to be one, right? Which you might be wondering, well, what is the uniqueness thesis, Scribble? Oh my goodness, what is the uniqueness thesis? Well, uniqueness thesis just says that, okay, any body of evidence, not use evidence, in any account, anybody that counts E uniquely determines which of the attitudes are actually permissible, given some proposition P or some motivated reasons P, right? So that is to say that, okay, you can provide some motivator, you can provide, like, so we have some method of getting to X, right? We have another method of getting to X, right? But the issue is this, that when you provide two methods of getting to X, you have to deny the permissivist accounts because, in a sense, you'll be presupposing, or you'll actually be arbitrarily picking between one or the other. Which to pick arbitrarily just means that you pick one devoid of reason, and to pick the one devoid of reason, which lack of reason would imply that you're doing this like synthetic incoherently. It's going to be irrational. Given the fact that it's going to be irrational, you're not saying anything that's going to be motivated or anything that's going to be coherent. And given these factors, is a case that, well, you're picking between these two options that don't make any sense, right? So to formalize it up, right? So A implies B, which A in a sense would be you having multiple accounts, and B would just be syntactic incoherency. And just syntactic incoherency just leads to something that's going to be like under this continued
look,
system.
I just want to flag for the judge that this guy is not motivated a mental state presupposition that's needed for phenomenal conservatism as well. But we're going to move on from that. He didn't offer any defense relations upon his phenomenal conservatism, but that's fine. Look, you do realize that when you have the uniqueness thesis, it's going to presuppose that evidential configurations possess a determinate force sufficient to fix a singular doxastic output under conditions of ideal rationality. And the reason why that's the case is because you're committed to a strong form of evidential determinacy, right? And you realize that when you properly totalize that type of evidence, it converges on a uniquely privileged epistemic attitude. However, you do realize that you have the underdetermination of theory by evidence, right?
Justify cognitive descriptivist?
Yeah, the reason why that's true is because you're collapsing under the determination of theory by evidence. You do realize when you have some evidential set, you do not intrinsically encode your interpretative schema, faggot. You fucking ass, bitch. You realize that you require some type of auxiliary principle that's not it's itself going to be uniquely fixed by the evidence that we're organizing, right? You do realize that, right?
We just got lost. Okay, I just want to flash to the judge.
You fucking
okay, just for everyone who's listening. Okay, so in case you didn't know, I asked this guy to motivate cognitivist descriptivism, right? Which just says this, okay? So one, it just denies, like, I'm a non-cognitivist on like these like kind of like relations such as, well, X because Y, this is true in virtue of, or these motivated reasons in favor of X. And under his format, I'm a non-cognitivist descriptivist. Now, what he's saying supposes is because, well, this would be the case in virtue of, or this would be motivated in virtue of, this is true in virtue of, but that presupposes the cognitivist descriptivist account, right? Which I'm asking motivated reasons for. And I asked him to motivate this. He said, well, actually,
no, it does not. No, it does not. No, it does not. No, it does not.
No, it does not. It
doesn't presuppose that you're actually selling.
Which actually motivate, right? So anything that was going to tell me, anything that's motivated from, like, in a sense, can you try to like provide some kind of count or motivation in favor of? Wouldn't entail. He said, well, actually, you need this. He just said there's going to be some body of evidence. What actually that's going to be a mistrial because
no, it does not.
I don't take the
He's blundering.
I don't take the
this guy's so
to be some body of evidence, which I said before. I denied it being a body of evidence, but he still repeats, and because I mistracks my view, it's going to be very clear strong man, right? It's going to be some body of evidence, but it's not going to be a body of evidence. I explained it to you.
You do realize, right?
Body of accounts. Now, what's the response?
You do realize, right? You can actually be a global expressivist and keep the kind of X is true in virtue of type of talks, right? And the reason why is because it's going to become internal to the system of expressive commitments, right? On the view, discourse doesn't primarily describe reality. You're actually, I guess you can say you're kind of expressing this underlying cognitive state, right? But you can keep those kind of talks. You can reanalyze them, not as some type of dependence, but as an inferential role of stabilism within society. Right? So that's a blunder, right? You don't need to justify that to keep these kind of talks. Right, that's what I'm saying. Right, you're placing a blunder on me. You're placing a burden on me that's not actually my burden right now. I don't need to justify that because you can keep these kind of true and virtue of type of talks while denying cognitive expressivism. Right, you can be an expressivist about these type of talks, and you can keep the type of language that I'm using here. So that's not actually my burden, right? I mean,
how would a global
are you aware of this?
I want you to motivate.
Are you aware of this?
Would respond to this. How would it even provide some motivated reasons of X?
I just explained why you can be a global expressivist and keep the kind of talks that I'm saying. Right. So when you ask me to motivate a thesis, right, I can just deny that thesis and keep the kind of talks.
The reasons you already provided. So I want you to provide some like argument in favor of, or just justification.
You want reasons in favor of those reasons? Yeah, the reasons in favor of those reasons are just going to be because expressivism is just going to be another stance within the space of stance formulation systems.
Why?
Right? So
why?
Yeah, I just take that. I take it to be the case that's right. You can have some type of shifting allocations in virtue of talk, right? So I don't even know what you're asking me there. Do you want to conclude?
Wait,
you want to conclude?
You want to conclude with this issue? Just a fact.
Yeah,
you said that you take it. Okay.
Do you
so
want
the
to
reason
conclude?
why it would be the case in virtue of, or let's just motivate reasons for the reasons themselves, would actually be in virtue of or whatever, is the case that because you think. But I already said that you thinking it would also not be preserved under econ veritate, in the sense that it makes the conscience opaque. And
I didn't say I think.
opaque,
I
is the case
actually
that
deny
we're just saying
thinking.
that intelligence denies the entailment.
I deny thinking.
You just said you think. You said you think. Okay, that's a contradiction. So
you can keep those kind of talks while denying the underlying structure there, retard. Right? You can accept some type of putative category, but you can refuse that the object of denial has some type of pre-given cognitive framework. So I'm unclear on what you're even talking about here. I'm unclear on what you're even talking about here, right? Because
the Moorian paradox
says
that, okay, I mean, since now that we're talking about think, we're going to skip about that, but the Moorian paradox says that, okay, X is true, but I don't believe it. I say, well, it is raining, but I don't believe it's raining, or it is raining, but I don't think it's raining, or it is raining, but
yeah, I just deny that there's some type of thing that serves as the locus of thought.
Okay, what's the locus of thought?
It's really simple. Yeah, the locus of thought is going to be the so-called mental act that's not properly individuable, right? It's going to be some type of retrospective grammatical artifact.
That's fine. Non-cognitive.
So what?
Personality non-cognitive. Yeah, that presupposes that view is false. Given the fact that what you're saying,
it doesn't.
Wait, it doesn't.
You can actually just take some account where both are true at the same time, right?
Capp, bro. Vale said he can't hear me when you overtalk me. I'm pretty sure you're trying to use that to your advantage. Not saying so that maybe I can't speak. You can't hear me. And then like
he's false blunders on me. Do you want to conclude? Because you're getting your ass wiped right now. I told you wouldn't be able to out meta yap me. I told you. You didn't want to listen. I told you would never be able to out meta yap me. But I'm gonna get back into the substance of the dialectic now, right? So look, let's imagine that you have some attempt to reintroduce thinking as some type of foundational
moderation.
We can just reimpose some metaphysics.
Yo, moderation.
Can we I don't want to listen to this shit that long, bro.
We're supposed to be
doing conclude?
I gotta do talking sticks or conclude. Just calm down, bro.
Yeah, that's the response we could conclude. Wow, that's supposed we can conclude. So, what we'll say was this, okay? So he kept saying that these I talks, well, in a sense, the I talks themselves that are presuppose that the person identity non-cognitivism is actually false, right? Or it wouldn't actually uphold given this, because person identity statements just say that it just denies statements about oneself. Right? So to say things such as, well, I think X, or I hold X, or I would X, etc., any of these kind of dispositions would hold, given virtue of what I think. But these things would fail because these things would not express any true that propositions or anything that's going to be coherent. But then the thing is this, though, he said, I think this is the case. And then he said, okay, I deny thinking, right? But thinking, thinking and think, what's called think, we presuppose the definition of thinking, which already went off.
Did I not just tell you that you can?
Yeah, I know.
You can deny thinking, but
we can have these kind of talks and so deny them. And I asked him, is he trying to use some kind of Moorian paradox, right? Which still in a sense,
nobody's using the Moorian
basically almost identical what he's saying. We said that, okay, I hold, or X is true, or X is the case, or X is asserted, or X is assented to, but I don't think, I don't believe, I don't hold X, right? And he said no. So if what I'm saying is numerically identical with this term, it would mean that if you substitute it, it would be actually true preserving under salve veritate. And then to deny this would also mean you're denying that too. It's like a uniform instant substitution, right? So I already know what he means by that, to say that, okay, I don't hold to this, right? But we're just saying, but what's being said here is identical to what I said before, right? He also didn't provide motivated reasons in favor for why person identity non-cognitivism is also going to be false. Yeah.
You do realize that salva veritate doesn't hold up if I is not going to be some type of stable designator, but a shifting index of episodic cognitive inscription. Right, and the reason for that is because substitution across occurrence divide does not preserve truth conditions, because there's no invariant barrier across which preservation can be defined.
Wait, why is that?
And the reason for that is because you have some continuity illusion generated by course graining over discontinuous cognitive events. Right.
Why is that too?
So I mean,
why is that?
Yeah, because there's no strict diachronic identity relation. This is really simple stuff, man. I didn't know you were this ass, and you had no idea about what the fuck I'm saying. I thought you had. I thought you were knowledgeable on this. You can't actually out meta yap me.
Wait, why is it being
You can't actually out meta yap me.
Are you gonna respond? Why does it need to be a diachronic identity?
Because you're already surreptitiously introducing some type of first-personal indexical anchor that functions as a pseudo-stable referential node.
Oh, and
the node is just going to be the indexality. It's not going to be metaphysically innocent. Right? But also, I just want to flag that my hypothesis is going to be more lovelier than yours. My hypothesis is more lovelier than yours. It's more attractive than yours. So you're actually blundering right now. You fucking suck. But we can conclude. Yeah, we can conclude. I got what I wanted.
Interesting.
We can conclude.
We want to go after
With these stages, we don't do no closing statements. We get straight to the verdict on my daughter.
I think Capp won. Scribbled wasn't really able to get his argumentation theory off of the ground, nor is the proposition that God exists or theism is true sufficiently warranted. They got into this like shitty meta ramble. I don't want to really go over all of the points, but I think that Capp engaged with most of the burdens that Scribbled tried to place on him. You know, he responded to them saying that these things aren't the types of things which are incompatible. For example, Scribbled asks him to motivate the cognitive descriptivism account, and Capp says we can keep these type of talks while denying the underlying structure. If Scribbled gave a response there, I think it was just questioning the I talk, and then Capp engaged with that as well. But yeah, I don't really want to say much more. I think the well-formed formula part, when like Scribbled was trying to motivate his argumentation theory, was also responded to by Capp. Yeah, but that was all over the place. That was some shit.
All right.